Good morning. Welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the 15th day of November 2023. Wow, is this year gone fast? It's amazing. And lots and lots to talk about today. I am going to start this off with Bill Mohr, number 2, Jr., and we're going to go through Liberty Essentials. And Bill is the chairman of the U.S. Taxpayers Party in Michigan, which is, in fact, the Constitution Party, except our lovely Secretary of State will not change the name, although she refuses to do so. But we're the U.S. Taxpayers Party of Michigan. I'm the first vice chair, and welcome, Bill. How you doing?
Good morning, Donna. I'm doing all right.
Awesome.
So,
what are we talking about today?
Well, another touch on that. It's not only our current Secretary of State, but Secretary of State that's anyone that's been in office for the last 8 years, whether they're of the either two major parties, as so they're called, the big single-owned party there. Doesn't matter which one.
The globalist mittens. They've got the Democrats on one side and the Republicans on the other. So they're the globalist mittens. There, I just threw that out there this morning.
Yep. There's no law saying that we can't, but their excuse is there's just no law saying that we can. And this is America, where in the absence of law, there's liberty, it's been said. And they're denying that liberty to simply change a party's name to match their national affiliate. So in the meantime, we're going to own it. We are the U.S. Taxpayers Party of Michigan. And until such time as that can change, we'll just remain that way. Keep rubbing it in their faces one day at a time here.
They keep wanting to shut us down. And it's like, screw all of them. I'm just going to say it, right? So there you go. We're not politically correct, but it is real. So back to the Republican Party, I post since there's been some craziness there. I post all of their stuff that they don't want out, the dirty laundry, because either they act with transparency and correctness, or they need to be burned to the ground. I mean, that's just the way it is. And they had this week yet another person in leadership resign over concerns of criminal behavior and ethics violations in their budget committee. So this week, Dan Couture resigned, and we've had Jessica Barefield resign. We've had Warren Carpenter resign, and we had Matt Johnson resign. And I'm going to say we, because all conservatives should be standing together. This is nonsense. And if they, but I don't think they're conservative anymore. I don't think they're anything other than the mitten of the globalist structure that's in this state. And so they're playing ball with Whitmer, Nessel, and Benson. They're all in bed together. I don't care what anybody says. You can see, but they're literally going to lose as the primary conservative party in people's eyes. They are going to lose this state to communism, to Marxism, to these globalists. And it's going to be the fault of anyone who stands with them at this point in time, because this is not salvageable. They've got way too much power centralized in their control. So I'm encouraging everybody, jump off that little Titanic and actually do something that's going to make a difference. Personally, I would encourage people to check out the U.S. Taxpayers Party, because we have ballot access. But when you look at the nonsense going on anywhere else, I mean, what other way is there to jump if you have conservative values? And anybody can get behind the U.S. Taxpayers Party, because we fight for liberty. We fight for individual freedoms. And I don't know what there is to disagree with on this.
Yeah, well, you could always jump to the Libertarian Party. I mean, they promote a lot of freedom, small government. I mean, a lot of the same things we do, except for the plain and simple fact is they believe that you honestly have the right to murder the unborn, right?
You want to know the craziest explanation I heard from a libertarian? So I agree with a lot of the things that they say, but when you hear this kind of insanity, I cannot even take this seriously. They believe that you should be able to abort a child up to and past the person I was talking to anyhow. And this was acceptable under the terms of the Libertarian Party, I guess, that you should be able to abort a baby past or up to and past the birth, just like some of the other crazy states are doing, because they see it as an attack of the male's sperm on the female's egg. They don't see it as a baby. And it's like, so it ceases to be sperm when there's a union between the egg and the sperm, in my opinion, right? So they see it as a continuing attack and or part of, if they're going to justify rape, part of a rape. And I'm like, I have a problem with that definition. It seems a little crazy to me. Quite honestly, that seems crazy. When that baby is conceived, in my opinion, it's the beginning of life. And I can't justify that. I can't come to terms with that. You know, I'm sorry. There is no life without union of an egg and a sperm. And once those have united, you have life.
You know, it's funny that this is the way that the topic's going already. But this morning, I actually watched a video, um, and I don't know where it's from or who it was done by, but they have uh, video evidence of the moment of inception when a sperm enters an egg, and it's a phenomenal video to watch.
It's a
I'll see if I can
flash.
find it and
There's a
send it to you.
flash, isn't there?
Yeah, there is a flash of light, and knowing that all life begins by the Creator, uh, that He is light, and the fact that there would be a flash at the moment of inception is a miraculous thing, right?
Do you
And
have the
I
link?
hold the
Tell me what the link
what's
is,
that?
and tell me what the link is. We'll pull it up and watch it.
I'll have to find it here in just a minute. I'll get you talking in a little bit, and I'll find it. um, but I hold to the Constitution in that there is provision in the Constitution. Now, let me be very clear because this gets controversial. But there is provision in the Constitution for taking the life of a child, a baby. Right now, I want to be very clear when I say that it is listed in the Fifth Amendment. Right, it says specifically that nor shall any person be nor shall any person be subject to the same offense to be put twice in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Okay, and to be deprived of life, you must first have committed a capital offense worthy of death and be charged and convicted within a court of law, not a court of injustice that we have. Um, so there is provision for that. But the plain and simple fact is, I don't see it possible that an unborn child can be put in jeopardy of a criminal offense. It's as simple as that, right? You have to be actually doing harm to somebody, and that has to be a provable evidence. Uh, oh, you know what? I think I know where that link is because I sent it to somebody this morning.
I've got something that says zinc and IVF, the flash of light at the very moment a sperm cell makes contact with the egg.
Yes, that one.
Is it this one? Let me go ahead and add this. And oh, yay, my anon skills come in handy once in a while. Let's see if we can get this thing up here. I can, in fact, research, ladies and gentlemen. Not as good as some, but better than others. So let's see what we've got here. I've got the sound off, but let's just watch this a minute. Is that the one?
I think the one actually to the right, over on the right side, the single.
This one?
The single there is the one that I saw.
Okay, let's try that one. It's 18
I'm
seconds.
not sure if they're doing it in test tubes or how they're getting this, but yeah, this one here. Look at that.
Oh, that is cool and beautiful. Wow, let's play that one again. Can you imagine, for all the people that let's see, let's go back to that a minute. Can you imagine think about this, guys. This is the beginning of all of us. This is this is so incredible. How amazing is that?
You know,
That is so
God said
amazing.
we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and that life is the light, and that is just one more. You know, science will eventually catch up to the truth. They really will. They find a little bit here and there.
No, they won't, Bill. No, they won't. They don't want to catch up to the truth. They want to kill us all. Oh, I said that right out loud, didn't I? Sorry, but no, not sorry. Anyhow, so what are we talking about today for Liberty Essentials?
Well, I want to get right back to the simplicity of what Liberty Essentials used to be. We kind of strayed off that a little bit.
That's okay.
So Liberty
Welcome to
Essentials, for those
Brandenburg
watching,
News
are just,
Network. It never
yeah,
stays on the rails.
yeah, they're just supposed to be quick little thoughts with a small commentary, um, mainly written by those who are in the party, uh, just to provoke a little thought process, right? So the one this morning that came to my attention, being that we have Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House, and we'll get to that here in just a minute. Uh, but in the Virginia Bill of Rights in June of 1776, right? This is the framing of our country beginning. George Mason and Patrick Henry agreed and are quoted as saying that no man or set of men are entitled to exclusive or separate sorry, entitled to exclusive or separate privileges from the community, but in consideration of public services, which not being descendable, neither ought the offices of magistrate, legislator, or judge to be hereditary. Right? These men knew that no elected official is above his elector, and no elected should be considered permanently established. It is our duty to formally relieve an official by electing another when they can no longer perform their duties or oath or have been corrupted by financial gains outside of the law. Will you rise to the occasion and replace the politicians in your government or continue to vote for the same? We kind of started the show about talking about that. But this is really the basis of what we hear being called a democracy, right? Democracy is our ballot box. It is the end of our democracy in the United States is our ballot box. Everything beyond that point is a republic, right? We just use that form of democracy to establish those who are going to represent us. And those people ought never to be left alone to do their job and be considered to be permanently placed there to do such. When they are no longer there for the good of the people, they ought to be removed, whether by impeachment in the Constitution, or if it's not an offense against the people's rights, which almost everything is that they're doing, they should not be reelected. Simple as that. And we need to get to the point where we get out of this party mentality and start looking for individuals as Americans that will uphold their oath and will abide by the Constitution and the laws and the delegated powers that we've given them. No more, no less. Right? If we get to that point, then we could start making headway. Right? But it all begins with us as individuals. We have to get out of the mentality that we've been indoctrinated with to claim that our government's a democracy. And it is, like I said, only to the ballot box. And start finding the people necessary to get the job done. Not by just what they say, but what they do. Right? So that's your quick Liberty Essential for this morning. And on that, I wanted to read, being this is our first video on YouTube for the U.S. Taxpayers Party, I wanted to read the statement of purpose from the U.S. Taxpayers Party mission, right? Just for those who haven't read it or haven't heard it being said, Howard Phillips was the initial founder of the Constitution Party. And we established, the Constitution Party is established as the vehicle to make this thing happen, right? But a vehicle requires operators. It requires a crew. It requires a maintenance team. It requires the fuel and everything that goes along with it. It's not just one person or two or three doing all of this. It requires the team to get down the track. Okay. So he had said our simple, straightforward intention is to cut the federal government down to constitutional size. I think everybody can agree with that, unless you believe the Constitution is null and void and it's some living document that can be changed and perverted,
which gives up your
using
rights. Which
using the plain words,
and
to restore the separation of powers, the checks and balances, and the system of accountability postulated by our framers. Once again, that was Howard Phillips' quote. So the U.S. Taxpayers Party shares everyone's concern in that our elected leaders are corrupting our government by neglecting to follow their constitutional boundaries. We believe adherence to the constitutions, plural, of our federal and state governments is essential for the preservation of our society, our rights, and our liberties. It is upon these foundations that our nation became the greatest nation in all of history, the greatest nation ever. For several decades, our lawmakers, I call them legislatures, they can't write law. God is the only lawgiver. They legislate according to that. But they have been abusing the power entrusted to them and bringing about detriment to our liberties and to our nation. It cannot continue forever. There will be a sad ending to the story if left unchecked. Right? Our foundations cannot be repaired using new ideas, guys. They cannot be. It cannot be repaired by implementing change. How many times do we hear that word being used, whether in Congress or a legislator or anybody running a campaign? They use the word change all the time. We don't need change. We need restoration. It must be repaired by adhering to the principles upon which it was established. Anything short of that will result in continued failure, continued loss of liberties, continued loss of freedom, and progressive misery upon the American people. Our purpose is to preserve the Constitution and to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity through the election of USTPM candidates. In my opinion, whoever can get the job done, right? Who will uphold the principles of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, and the party platform to all levels of government. We're not just talking about the feds. We're not just talking about the state seats here. We're talking about even local seats of government where our focus should be first and foremost. It is our goal to limit the federal government to its delegated, enumerated constitutional functions and to restore American jurisprudence to its original biblical common law foundation. You and Karen were talking about that this morning. I loved hearing that. If you believe in the principles of inherent individual rights upon which these United States were founded, that each individual is endowed by his creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and life, liberty, property, and a pursuit of happiness, that the freedom to own, use, exchange, control, protect, freely dispose of property is a natural, necessary, and inseparable extension of the individual's inalienable rights, that the legitimate function of government is to secure these rights through the preservation of domestic tranquility, the maintenance of a strong national defense, and promotion of equal justice for all, and that history makes clear that left unchecked, it is the nature of government to usurp the liberty of its citizens and eventually become a major violator of the people's rights, that therefore it is essential to bind the government with the chains of the Constitution and carefully divide and jealously limit government powers to those assigned by the consent of the governed. I would like to now invite you to join hands with the U.S. Taxpayers Party of Michigan, of the Constitution Party nationally, as we endeavor to repair the foundations upon which this great nation was built. We don't desire change. We don't desire new ideas. We simply desire the restoration of the Constitution because it and it alone we have put in place to bind the government with chains, as our founders described it, so that they may not usurp the rights, the inalienable rights that were given to us upon birth, not by them. Right? That's our statement.
Bravo! That's our statement, and that is what we stand for. We stand, in like you said, encourage everyone. The website is ustpm.org. unlike the Republican Party, who doesn't even have a sign up or a place to join them on their $75,000 website. Our website costs like almost nothing. And there is a place for you to join us we're not based on big dollar donations. It's a bunch of people who truly just believe in America, who are working together on the highest principles of ethics. And what really struck me, because before I ran for governor as a Republican candidate, and then being removed illegally, which was proven in court that my rights were violated, and then coming to the Constitution Party. So I had no background in any political organization. The difference I saw in the Taxpayers Party in how educated the people are in that party is incredible. And they behave like statesmen, not like Jerry Springer politics, not like this fighting and nonsense and childish behavior. We don't see that. But if you're going to come in with nonsense, you're going to probably, get it handed to you, because people are in fact educated enough to know the truth and the law and how it's supposed to work, which is really inspiring. It's a beautiful thing. And I got to tell you, I'm very proud to stand with you and every person in the U.S. Taxpayers Party, because there is something to stand for there.
Yeah, when I first got involved, I stood with the idea that if I was ever elected to an office by the people, and public office, I am not, but other offices within party functions, I have been. If I was ever elected by the people, that I would work to repeal what is necessary to get back to the foundation, right? If you look at, I like to use the analogy, we're fighting castles here. If you have two kingdoms, each built on their own foundation, each containing their own castle, flying their agenda flags above their castle, right? The conservatives of the day, for too long, I mean, way, way too long, have been firing at the opposing castle's flags, right? We're knocking down the flags, and with some success. I'll admit it. But we're shooting at the flags, right? In the meantime, the opposing enemy, the opposing kingdom, is firing at our foundation. Which do you think is going to last longer, right? We have to get back to the foundation that we're established on and get back to rebuilding that foundation, right? Which means we have to tear down some of the top layers to get to it, to repair the damage that's been done. That's understood. But in the meantime, if we just continue firing off at these agenda flags, which needs to be done, but if we only do that instead of attacking the foundation of the opposing forces, we're not going to get anywhere. Our castle is going to fall here, right? And that is the root of what was said when a kingdom divided against itself shall not stand. That's America at its core right now. The powers that be, and mainly those coming out of government agencies, have created so much division among the people that we can barely come to unity on the Bill of Rights, let alone the rest of the delegated authority, the delegated powers in the Constitution. And we need to get rid of that division and go back to agreeing in unity that the Constitution says what it says, it doesn't say what it doesn't say, and that this is the only course of action that can be used to rein in the corruption that we see, right? And that includes federal government, states governments, local governments. It's the same thing. Last week I went down to the Charter Township of Bedford, right?
Yeah.
I was asked to go down there because they were dealing in a similar issue. And I think I brought this up on your show before. In our township, we had a guy, real brief, a guy that was sitting in the seat of supervisor that had sold his home, moved outside of the township, and by law you can't do that. The moment you no longer inhabit the area where you're elected, you're done. The seat's vacant. It has to be filled, right? So it was brought to my attention that Bedford Charter Township, and I'll name him by name. It's Mr. Bemis, in case anybody cares, or I'm sorry, Beamish, Beamish, Barry Beamish. He's a trustee down there. And that was brought to my attention, and I was asked to go down there and give my experience on it. So I did, and I thought that was all I was going to get into. But oh my, you people in Bedford Township, Calhoun County, wow! I mean, it's time to get to work down there. So I went down there and called them out on it. And of course, if you've ever been to a board meeting, and most townships, the larger townships are this way, you get a public comment time at the end. Okay, you're always limited on time. They try to limit you, and
they can't do by law.
Yep. And so when you're done speaking, they rarely ever will comment on anything you said. They just move right on to the next speaker. It's because it just goes in one ear and out the other ear. You know, they don't really care what you have to say, and that was proven. Because not only did I make it clear that he was illegally occupying that seat and that the people were going to stand up and do something about it, but also to his armed Gestapo that stood not only behind him, but in the back room, outside the entry door, outside the front offices. And they were there to protect the board, not protect the people. And I called them out because now they know something illegal is happening. And according to law, if they fail to do something,
they're all
guilty.
guilty.
Written down. I should know what the law is off the top of my head, and I can't. It's 201.3. I'm sorry. MCL 201.3, I'm pretty sure. That if they fail to do something about it, that's a misdemeanor. Right? It's up to a year in jail for them for just not taking action when they see something illegally being done. So, at least myself, I don't know if anybody else is going to take the task, but we're going to start filing affidavits to the state government, which, once again, I don't see much happening because of who occupies the state seats. But we're going to start filing affidavits on this, just like I promised it. We chased our township supervisor out for the same thing. And if I hear about it, I'm going to take action against it. That is the duty of the people. We cannot allow people in our elected seats of government to continue violating the law that they have sworn an oath to uphold and protect. Right? If you see something, do something. Right? What's the common phrase? If you see something, say something. Right? I'm not saying just say something. I mean, do something. Get out there, point it out, reprove the darkness. We're called to do, right? And if the majority would start doing that, if the minority would start doing that,
if 5 people would do it, we could make some distance. Listen to 5 people, because how many letters I heard that from one representative that if they get 5 calls or letters on an issue, that's a lot, which is just absolutely crazy to me. When I first started homeschooling years ago, they were jailing people and trying to put people in jail and take their kids away for it. So, it was very serious because it was, like 30 some years ago. And there was a case in Jenison or Hudsonville, the DeYoung case that was going on. And all of us that were homeschooling were at risk if this case failed. And the homeschool legal defense people were really involved in that. And we literally shut down the switchboard in Washington over that issue. They said they had more response to that than anything they'd ever had. Now, I want you to think about this. This is it really when homeschooling kind of just became a thing in the state of Michigan. There were a handful of us. And there weren't any more than that. There was just a handful of us that were doing it. And we were able to shut down the switchboard across the United States. So now think about this. If we got ourselves together with a plan, and people stop fighting amongst themselves and realizing who the real enemy is, it's those people sitting in the seats who are breaking the law, and decided to get together on it, it wouldn't take everyone, it would just take really committed people to move forward and make a big change. So to everyone out there, again, we invite you to join the U.S. Taxpayers Party in the state of Michigan, ustpm.org, and fight for your rights, fight for the rights of your neighbors, your family, and your friends, and constrain the government, which is what the Constitution was all about. I'm a fan of nullification. Yeah, it's nullification is the way to remove all of this stuff. And due to the case Norton versus Shelby County, none of these three-letter agencies even exist through the lens of the Constitution. So it's actually a very easy thing to do if people know the law and are willing to run with it. But one person can't do it alone. Can't do it. You've got to have a bunch of people, just because of the administrative effort that has to be carried out in dealing with these people that are sitting in the seats.
Yeah. So let's look at something that happened just recently.
Okay.
We have a lot of Christian groups, a lot of conservative activism going on, and everybody was really applauding Mike Johnson there.
So they say. It's all a label at this point.
Yep. So what happened right before Mike Johnson took Speaker of the House? He stood up there and he was on many news broadcast stations pointing out the corruption of the Biden administration, the whole Biden family, actually. And he had said that it all shows and proves that there's enough evidence to impeach him. Right? Those are Mike Johnson's words, not mine. I believe there are plenty of other things to impeach people over, more so than even what he brought up.
Mm-hmm.
But then he was elected, supposedly, by the House as Speaker. Okay, and what happened in his first week as Speaker? Now he's saying that he doesn't find enough evidence to impeach him. Right? And people, this happens all the time. They tell you what you want to hear until they get where they want to be, and then they don't do anything about it.
Well, they're chosen and they're vetted. They will never get in a seat unless they pass the test of what they're willing to do to preserve the power of the people that are pulling the strings. They're nothing more than puppets.
Yeah. Yep, that's absolutely true. And I still see a lot of people praising him for it, and I don't get it. I do
because it's got that. He comes out and I'm a Christian. Don't criticize the church. Don't criticize being a Christian. Well, you know what? I'm a Christian, though. I'll say I'm a believer. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. He's my Lord and Savior. Period. End of story right there. But the labels that they're using to mislead people, because people want to say, well, that's like criticizing my family. No, it's not. It's taking your family surname, stamping it on their head, and getting out there virtue signaling that they're part of a family, which they are not. Because we don't know these people. I was telling this to somebody the other day. The people that sit in the seats, they're strangers. Stranger danger, guys. Stranger danger. We don't know who these people are. There's minimal background checks going on. I'm working with an investigator, a criminal investigator right now, and we are going through people like you cannot believe and finding not only them, but the connections to this global money laundering system. It is damning, and it's going to come out. I'm going to put this all out there once we get an organized map of personalities. The amount of aliases out there is shocking. People aren't even who you think they are. They've got other aliases that they're operating under. Some of them are made up personalities. They're not even real. And once you see that, or see the connections that they have to, say, World Economic Forum, or just the business entities that they have behind them, is shocking. Christina Caramo, the head of the MIGOP, who paid $75,000 in a no-bid contract to the person that owns the business that nominated her for that position, who never paid any more than pennies of what he got on that for his own website running for office. She is the president of a company based in Nevada.
Can somebody say payoff?
It is damning. And then they started that good neighbor, the good neighbor program. You know what that is? That's nothing more than a spy on your neighbors. They already have the information that they need. They can they're generating a second set of information using people's personal contacts where they go door to door. Then they come back and they write down everything that they found out about their neighbor in this database to hand over to them. I'm going to just make a guess here what's going to happen. Not that I'm, some sort of a fortune teller or anything like that, or a future teller or anything like that. Just being able to watch human behavior and say what's likely to happen next. They're going to use that to sell it in order to make money for your personal information given out by your neighbors and friends to these information spies that are going door to door for the MIGOP. This should be considered a breach of privacy. At the minimum, it is recruiting people to spy and using the trust that other people have in their neighbors and friends to know them, to hand over personal information on people. This is so wrong. I can't even put words to it.
Well, they took that right out of the playbook for census workers, government census workers. I spoke with one a while back, and she gave me some insight as to what they were told to do when they go door to door. And they actually had this digital box, whatever. It had GPS in it, such. So not only would they locate or pinpoint your property, but they were told as pulling up, you make notes of what you see, what you find. The buildings, the layout, entry point, such like that. And they were honestly told to get as close to your known entry door, whichever one seemed more viable that you would enter your home through. They were told to get as close as they could to that to get the GPS readout of their little digital box, whatever that is. And what do you think that's for? I mean, why does the government need to know which door you enter your home in? Well, that's pretty simple here. A little bit of common sense comes into play. They want to know how you exit your home in the case of an emergency, right? And
it's not going to be for good reasons. It's like when the government says we're the government here to help. Oh, we got a problem.
Yeah, you know it. So I've been told by a lot of people that that when we talk about our current elected officials, our servants in government, I've been told by people that you're disgracing the office by talking that way about them, right? And I got to tell you, to those who think that way, you are honestly disgracing the blood sacrifice that our men and women in the past military forces and our founders and their sons and their families. You're disgracing that blood sacrifice for allowing such things to continue without speaking out against it, right? I'm not there to disgrace the government or the seats within the government. I love the government. It's there for our benefit, right? For our protection.
It should be.
It should be. But it's when somebody sits there and assumes authority that I never gave them or that you never gave them. And to go along with that is a disgrace to your blood brothers and sisters in America. Anyone who considers themselves an American. To not speak out against lawful violations, criminal offenses, corruption within the seats of government is to be complacent in it, is to go right along with it. And I'm honestly sick of it. I'm sick of hearing about it. I mean, we shouldn't even be having this conversation, right? But once again, it is so divided, not only between Republican, Democrat, black, white, American, Asian, any hyphenated American that Kennedy clearly said there should never be. You're either American or you're not here, guys.
Right.
Christian, secular, I mean, you name it. The division is so rampant. So, we got to get back to the way we used to do things. If we want the results we used to get, we got to do the things we used to do, guys. right? Our founders all came together. All 3% of the population came together and took on the largest militant force in the world, and said, we're not going to be ruled by a man that won't be ruled by God. And they kicked that man across the pond, right? All we got to do is stand up against it. Whatever happens, happens. But we have to be willing to speak out against it. And that's plain and simple the duty of an American. Get to work. That's our job.
Yep, and love thy neighbor as thyself. That means everyone. You know, we had this discussion yesterday on how people slice and dice up the population. And you know, it's like the mentality is I only want to hang out with people that think like me. Well, that's not the way you solve problems. You have to talk to people with different ideas and things you don't agree with always, to either help educate not them but each other on the best solution. It's not a one-way street. It's a working together to become smarter, to have better solutions to fixing the problems that we have. You can't do that just by sitting in the seat and have everybody go, yep, 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 yep. You know, sometimes you got to talk to people that you fundamentally disagree with and listen to their points of view in order to bring more information into the core of the issue. Now, it's not always, which is a good thing. You know, the defund police is one of those headlines that people don't understand where this came from. And then because they didn't understand that, it got co-opted and went off in another direction. The defund the police movement started because they were selling military equipment to the police forces, and it became so expensive to maintain them. And there was no reason for police forces to have military grade equipment, and it was too expensive to maintain. So it was sapping the local resources just because somebody thought it was a great idea to put, $100,000 into a piece of equipment, which should have been in the hands of the National Guard instead of local policing. And the maintenance to the local police forces were sabotaging some of their efforts to actually have local policing, because the funds went in a different direction. And they, of course, co-opted the title and got everybody all upset about it. Say, oh, we can't defund our police. We love our police. Well, yes, but that's not what it was about, because the title, the headline, got co-opted to become part of their 5th generation warfare to break this nation.
Yep,
this is what it's all about. They're trying to break us. They're trying to break us financially with our families, to be able to support our families. So if they can keep us so busy just trying to survive as they're taking our money, and it's really kind of a criminal activity when you look at the taxation schedule. We are on a very illegal taxation process.
Yeah. And the whole defund the police movement, I'm careful when I word this, because I believe,
because somebody else will jump on it and say, oh no, they're for defunding the police. No, I'm not.
Yep. I believe that the police have now gone outside of their original intent, right? Mm-hmm. For instance, in the state of Michigan, there is no constitutional provision for the Michigan State Police to even exist. Okay? And our local sheriffs are supposed to be elected by the people, and they are supposed to protect the people. And their main job, and a lot of people disagree with this, but the police force's main job as a peace officer, right? Mm-hmm. What they should be, not police, but peace officer. They should be a reporting agency, right? A friend of mine was just talking about this the other day, but they call them first responders for a reason. And why is that? Because they respond once a crime is committed. Okay. And a lot of people disagree with that because, well, then you just have crime rampant and all they're doing is doing paperwork. That's not necessarily true if we would understand what our job is, right? If they are the reporting agency that are supposed to fill out the lawful paperwork and bring to truth what happened in the matter and present it for either indictment or charges or justice to be done. What is our part in that? Our part is enforcing the law. In our Constitution, we are, and we've said this before, but we are the militia, capable of bearing arms for the security of a free state. We are the people, okay? So we are tasked with enforcing the law, with repelling invasion, with suppressing insurrection, and we call on our servants, the peace officers, as they're supposed to be, to finish and I hate to say it this way, but finish the cleanup, right? To come in and record what happened, who, what, where, when. Okay, that way we can bring lawful justice to those that deserve it. Now they've gone a little bit outside of that, and I say a little bit facetiously here, but now they have become a patrolling agency looking for not only crimes, criminal offenses, felonies, misdemeanors, but now have gone into the civil infraction and believe that it is okay to take an American who is traveling down the road committing no offense against his fellow American, either life, liberty, or property, and extort money from them as a highway robber for all practical purposes for revenue to support them doing that. It's a big circular money scheme. You make money so that you get money is the way that works. And I take a lot of heat for saying such things, a lot by friends in the back of the blue movements, I call it. And that is because I don't want to get rid of the police. I don't. They have a job to do. They have a lawful duty that we've tasked them with. But do it and then leave the rest to the people, the way it should be, right? The 10th Amendment is very clear that the powers not delegated to the federal government nor prohibited by it to the states are left to the states first and then to the people, right? If the state doesn't hold the authority, if we never gave them the authority, that authority is ours. And they cannot delegate authority to another department like the Michigan State Police if they never had that authority to begin with. And they never have. So we need to understand the base here, right? Understand the foundation that we were just talking about. So yeah, I'm not in favor. I'm not in favor of getting rid of the police by any means. I'm not in favor of stripping their financial value to the point where they cannot effectively do their duties. What I'm talking about is limiting that little section of government, the peace officers, limiting that back to its constitutional size, like we talked about at the beginning, our statement of purpose. And if we would do that, then we, the people, retain the power. As our Constitution in Michigan says, that political power is inherent in the people, not the government, not the politicians, not political parties. That's all unconstitutional. The political power is inherent in the people. And when we get that power back, there is liberty again, right? When we have the law and abide by the law, we have the liberty to do what the law permits. Nothing outside of that. So, yeah, I don't want to get rid of the police. I don't want to strip them. I want to make that very clear. I want them to start doing their job that they were originally entitled and delegated the authority to do. Simple as that.
Well, and look at the funding. I'm going to come back to that again. So they stripped the money of the community policing. They stripped the money out of the sheriffs and the local police forces to a certain degree, and consolidated it under the state police and grew that. The state police get paid more than the sheriffs or the local police. So what people do is they end up going to the local policing, and then they'll go for the money at the state police, which leaves the communities basically without law enforcement protection. It's completely backwards. You cannot eliminate crime without a strong local police presence or force in the communities. And when they work for the sheriff's office for 2 years and decide they can get another $10 or $20 an hour by going to the state police force, and moving in that direction. Now we've got the big problem with law enforcement is, unlike the sheriffs, where if you've got a corrupt sheriff, you can vote him out, you can get rid of him, right? And the people can make the changes. With it consolidating all that power under the state police force, and it's a union, you got no hope once they get in there. And then I'm going to say it. This is an unpopular thing for people to hear, but you got the bro club there, bro sis club, whatever you want to call it, where they will not call out the people within their own ranks for behavior which needs to be prosecuted, because they protect each other. Same thing happens in the union. Same thing happens in any unionized organization. The same thing happens with the MEA and the NEA. And if you look at the NEA, we were talking about it yesterday, and their links to Tavistock, which is a global mind think tank, brainwashing, push the agenda propaganda organization that the globalists have been attached to for years. You have problems, because the problem is the corruption gets within the ranks and you can't clean it out. It's impossible. So we need to change that. And Whitmer, I heard, and I cannot confirm or deny this, but she used the state police to follow congressmen around in the legislature, the state Congress, or the state legislatures around in Michigan. Yeah. So you can use them as your little private Gestapo. The governor has the ability, because it's one of her departments, to use it as her little private Gestapo. So like as Donna Brandenburg as governor, that would have been one of those things I would have addressed immediately. And it needs to be addressed immediately. You're not going to catch the drug dealers. We don't have any drug enforcement to speak of in this state. So of course we have a rampant problem with fentanyl and some of the other things. They're not going, people are thinking, the drugs are in the big cities. Yeah, but how do they get there? They don't just magically poof, we're in the big cities. They're going through routes through the rural communities, and there's no policing there to take care of it because they cut the funding, and it's by design.
That's right. Yeah. You got to ask a simple question. Who elected these people, right? If they're not elected, they don't serve you. They serve whoever hired them.
Okay? Yes, or appointed them, like the Board of Elections.
Get that out of the way. That's right. And it's funny you bring that up. For those who think that Donna Brandenburg's being hard on the Michigan police here, let me give you a prime example of what you just said. This year, in April of this year, Donna, I had a sister die of fentanyl overdose.
And right? She was such a lovely person. I loved her so much. I very much miss her.
Yep. She didn't heed the warnings, and she kept it up. And there's a lot that goes into that. But nonetheless, so we did a little digging. I immediately got the local police force involved. I got the county police force involved. And we did a little digging, and I found not only the guy who brought it into Michigan, but I found the guy it was delivered to. I found the house that it was staged in, and I found the guy who actually gave it to her. Okay, all the names, all the numbers. We had everything on, and we delivered this all to the police. And I told them, when you need me to do something, call me. I'll be there. Right. And they dropped the ball. They wouldn't do a whole lot about it, besides watch the area a little bit. And it came to the point where the family realized that it wasn't moving here, right? We need swift justice in America. We don't need this prolonged stuff. And so we got the Michigan State Police involved, and they did nothing about it. Okay. And we had a unit within the National Guard that has a lot of pull in drug enforcement, and most of their pull is with the state police, but they have a lot of prosecutors, and they get to talk directly to the DA and such like that. We got them involved. Once they got involved, then questions started to be asked and answers were being given. Things were starting to move in the right direction, and it finally trickled back down to our local police. And we're talking, it's been several weeks, 6 or 7 weeks now this was going on. And the local police said, well, now we can't get a warrant. The judge won't issue us a warrant because the evidence is so old. All of that could have been destroyed.
Oh yeah,
Right?
that's what they do. They run the
Yep.
clock out.
And I told him, because I had a little bit of pull here because the house this guy was in, I happened to work for the management company of the house. And under any emergency that happens, I can just go in. Okay. And I told the police this. I was like, I understand you can't violate this guy's Fourth Amendment right of search and seizure without a warrant.
Only when they don't want to. The rest of the time, everybody's violating it.
Yep. But I take the lawful stance here. You know, I don't want you to violate his rights because I don't
Right.
want you to violate mine. But I told him I can get in that house and I can get him outside. I mean, that's very easy. And I laid it all out for him. I says, I'll put my life in that position for you to be able to do your job. Right. And that's what it takes. We need to be willing to give up ourselves that we can bring justice. Okay. And I was told, and I understand why they say this, but I was told that they cannot put civilians at risk that way. Okay. So weeks pass, nothing gets done.
Risk, though, it's your choice as their
Yep.
boss to do
Yep.
that. They don't understand that.
So nothing got done with not only that guy, but nor the bigger dealer. I mean, everybody just dropped the ball in law enforcement. Okay. So when you were talking about fentanyl, that's literally how it happens in some cases. And by the end of it all, they were asking me to join their police force. Okay. Which I don't have the time for, nor do you probably want me there because I know some things about some of you guys that's probably going to put me on a bad list. Say.
Yeah. Well, it's
But
just like Nessel did the same thing with all of those fraudulent registered voters in Muskegon that Chris Kyla came forward with. And I love Chris Kyla. He did the actual work on it, not the people that necessarily were talked about first. It was Chris Kyla. And it's, you know, the whole thing is just amazing. So he gets it up to Nessel, and Nessel hands it over to who? The state police, washes her hands and says, well, I did my job. No, you didn't. She didn't do her job. She's still responsible for it. You can't just pass it off to somebody else and pass the buck. If the Michigan State Police did nothing with it, who involved, the FBI was involved in this whole thing, and they're all passing the buck and they're going, I don't know, they did it, and nobody's willing to take responsibility for it. It's still the responsibility of that individual. All of them have the responsibility. They should all be removed.
Well, Dana Nessel, I mean, look at this. If anybody here in Michigan, if you're hearing this, you got to look at it. Dana Nessel is a felon, okay? And not only that, but one of her felonies, and we can talk off air about this if you like.
Treason?
But one of her felonies by law is up to life in prison, right? And it used to be the death sentence, okay? So this is our Attorney General in the state of Michigan who is tasked with prosecuting those who violate the law. And in the meantime, she is violating the law. What do you think we're going to get here, guys?
Yeah, she hid it.
Yeah.
She hid it from us.
Yep. So, I mean, all you got to do is a little bit of digging goes a long ways. Americans, Michiganders,
we could go into this so deep. We should just continue to go into this so deep because it's so horrifying. It's so abhorrent to both of us. This crime that's going on in this state that, you know, it's like I look at it and it's like, I'm not going to stop talking about it. They will not be able to silence me on this. First Amendment right, I'm going to exercise it, and I know you will too. And it's like I've told you, they can go ahead and try taking me down. I'm going to pop up in 100,000 other little incarnations of Donna Brandenburg online if they do that. And it's like because I have the ability to do that, and you know, so and to give people the ability to speak. That's why I don't censor. I don't even mind talking to people I disagree with, but I'm going to tell them I disagree with them, you know, and have that open discussion and why, you know, like the Convention of States and the Constitution. I absolutely am opposed to that vehemently. You know, it's like because we do not have the ethics and integrity of the people in the seats to do anything other than self-enrichment and to destroy that Constitution and individual rights to enslave our population. Yep. That's it. Anybody that's pushing that agenda is pushing the enslavement of America.
Yep. Anybody in convention of states, you guys got to understand what's going on, why that is being pushed so hard. And let me tell you, if your purpose is just to get term limits in, I mean, there's a reason why Congress didn't have term limits originally, and that's because the people have the power to remove them, right? We have the power to elect somebody else. Quit electing the same people if you honestly believe they were elected. But in the state of Michigan, read our Constitution, get to know it, because there are term limits in our Constitution. We cannot elect congressmen more than certain terms, okay? But we've delegated the authority for the Supreme Court to tell us that our Constitution, that section is null and void, right? It's absolutely inane. It's silly to think that the Supreme Court can tell the state who retains that authority that what we've put in place is unconstitutional, because it wasn't when it was put there, and it still isn't today. The Supreme Court has no authority to rule on that.
Well, let's just kick this thing one step further here. The 1963 Constitution is illegal. They did not place that. They did not have the number of votes, the approval to actually put that in place. It was an illegal action, and so nobody fought it, but because you know what? Because they had removed anything that looked like civics and actual education, even by the 1963. By 1960s. And that's the problem. So now what we're doing is trying to play catch up and re-educate the people on because the schools, the government schools, the indoctrination camps, are they going to teach anyone the proper process to actually defend themselves? Heck no. Why would they do that? It would remove them from power and get this back to the power in the hands of the people. Very simple. It's very, very simple, really. When once you finally get your arms around this thing, it's like, this is so simple to fix. But it's going to take somebody with a strong constitution, personal constitution, and will to get that pen, and the pen is mightier than the sword, and haul this thing back into the way that it was supposed to. And adding more rules on this is never going to do anything other than further dig the hole of our destruction deeper.
Yep. I watched, we go to a place for lunch down there, Vito's in Grand Rapids. There's some pretty interesting people down there, but they've always got Fox News playing. So that's my news source. I go down there a couple times a week, right? I get to watch Fox News, a little bit of conservative crack. And so they, besides the whole, Israeli supposed war that's going on over there, yesterday they were talking about Nikki Haley, right? I don't know much about Nikki Haley, but the very first time I see her speak on Fox News, she's talking about education and how the government needs to reform education and such like that. And this is supposedly the best conservative we have. Guys, the federal government has no business in education. The fact she's talking about it shows that she knows nothing about it. She doesn't know the Constitution that she swore an oath to. She doesn't.
Okay, you want me to throw a truth bomb out here? A real truth bomb? Let me see if I can find it, and I'll see if I can post it to my channel here, because this is kind of a concerning situation. So Nikki Haley always wears the same necklace, if anybody doesn't know that, and it is called the South Carolina Palm and Moon charm that she wears, and it sure looks like let's see, Tim Scott was a disaster as governor of South Carolina. That's why Trump pulled her out, put her in the UN, and keep your enemies closer, right? Let's see, her husband is in the National Guard, deployed in the Middle East now, and the ties to Obama, the Muslim Brotherhood, is kind of crazy. But check out her necklace. It's mostly the holy symbol of Islam. I would take a good close look of this, and I have some pictures here that I can and will post on my Telegram channel, because this is part of vetting people. It's not listening to what they say, because people who are in the club, they've got all these little hand signals, and and different signals and symbols that they communicate with each other through. So I think it's worth looking at.
Oh, that's pretty interesting.
Blackstone. I believe it's called Blackstone. Same thing. I can do, I can do a dig here and throw this up on my Telegram channel, but there's a it's kind of a crazy trail to go down. But if you're really gonna do some digging on people, you have to pay attention to those details. The details, the rings they wear, that if they are they wearing a Maltese cross? Are they, what are they wearing? What symbols do they have around them? And then dig into their backgrounds to find out what is real there. President Trump, the rightful president of the United States, which I say every time I'm on here, at least one time, he tends to pull people out and throw them out in the spotlight so that anons and or people who are digital warriors will pick that up and look at it to find out who is in fact not who they claim to be. Look at what he did to Christina Carano when he was in Detroit. He knows her name, and he called her Carano, not Caramo, Carano. There's a reason for that. And so it's time to dig deeper and find out, are there aliases back there? What else is in the background on these people? What about missing time in their lives that you can't find anything on? Wouldn't that be a little strange and oddity that you should ask questions on? So you got to dig on Nikki Haley, because I'm not buying this for 1 minute.
Yep.
So, and we're just ordinary enough to throw it out there. Who's the next puppet to sit in the seat? The ones you want are the ones that they're not even allowing close to that seat, because they're the ones that are going to be a real challenge to their little entrenched power structure. Yep. I'd vote for Karen. I say Bill Mohr for president, or Karen the Riveter for president. If President Trump gets knocked off the ballot, I like President Trump. I've been pretty vocal about that. Just because I like the way that I like his policies. People quite often don't question, why would he do this? It looks crazy, but he had it figured out. The taxation or the tariffing system he put in place should be considered the precursor of hauling in our tax system, which is completely illegal. You're going to have to do it step by step and incremental moves. You can't do it as much as we'd want to have things happen like that. We want it to be stable enough that it doesn't completely fall apart, so that all of a sudden a dictator, China, walks in and takes the reins.
Yep. No, we need people who are willing to abide by the Constitution here.
Absolutely.
We need people who are willing to bring justice. And I don't care what your affiliation is, for the most part. We need to judge them by their actions, not their words here.
Dare to be Americans.
Yep, that's right. Dare to be an American, guys. It cost our founders, our founding fathers, more than you can imagine, and it's going to cost us the same if we're going to preserve it. Simple as that. And I'm going to do what I can for my kids, just like you, Donna. My kids are all homeschooled. They've never seen the inside of these indoctrination camps, and they won't. And it's simply because I want them to know truth. I want them to know religion, morality, and knowledge. Just like our Michigan Constitution and the entire Northwest Ordinance said back in the 1700s. That is what we should be teaching for good governance and the happiness of mankind. And we got to get there. We got to get there, people. Get off your couches, shut the TV off, and take some action. As little as you can think might not do anything. It makes a difference.
Engage with your families and your communities, your neighbors. Build relationships that are lasting, and find something that you feel is worthwhile fighting for. Like I've been putting this out there too, is that the Flynn's America's Future is putting together a human trafficking seminar or training program on December 8th and 9th. And that is a very low cost thing if you care about the children, because there's so many children that are being trafficked through Michigan. It's incredible. The numbers of kids that Michigan's a target state. It's a border state. We've got international ports here. They can take them all the way from Minnesota, all the way to out the St. Lawrence Seaway, and they disappear. Once they're gone, once they get into this network, you'll never find them again. Never. And so we have to find the kids that are at risk in the communities and or spot their safe houses. This is not a big city problem. They're going to do the same things they do with drugs with kids. They're going to be in rural areas. They're going to be in your community. And can you imagine if it's your kids, yourself, your sisters, your brothers, and that are waiting, praying to God that somebody shows up to help them, and nobody comes. This is something that every single one of us needs to be in this fight, because it's going to touch you. It's going to touch all of us at some point in time, just like the drugs are. It's the most lucrative business to be in, is the trafficking of human beings and sex trafficking of children.
Yep,
we all need to get in the game.
It's so important to get involved in your local communities. Build your network in your communities. You know, learn the skill sets of everybody that you hang out with, because there will come a time when you're going to need some skill sets, you know,
and you might ferret out one of these weirdos that are out there that are preying on the pedophiles that are preying on children. Yeah.
Build your local militias up, even if it's just in your little community, your little 36 miles here in Michigan township. And I'm not talking, you know, a militant faction of arms here, guys. That's part of it, but I mean, a militia where you can actually watch, where you guys can be on call. If somebody needs help, you go, right? No questions asked. We protect our own here, and we protect those who know what it is to be an American, and we protect those who are innocent from their youth, even a child. If you ever see some of the symbols that are given to children, the help symbol, for instance, when a child does that, if they were taught that, and I hope they were, if you see that, you better take action. If not, you're going to be held to account for that. If you ever see somebody grab a child unnecessarily, you know, or I mean, anything that seems odd when it involves an innocent party, stand up for them. I mean, you may be wrong. I'll admit that. There are times where I called something out because I was concerned over somebody, and I was wrong. And I'll own that, but at least you were there, because if you were right and didn't do anything, you're going to be held to account for that.
Yep. You want to hear a shameful situation? There was a girl in a party in Detroit, the Detroit area, a few months back, and she was at a party with a friend, and she kind of disappeared. So the friend grabbed their phone to try to find her, and she got the Find a Friend app on there. And she got a hold of the police, and they tracked her down to a shipping container, which is how they're moving these kids. That's one of the ways that they do it. On trucks, on anything, they don't inspect these shipping containers in the ports, only 2%. And if they go out, I don't think any of them are getting inspected. And they tracked it to a shipping container, and the police refused to open the container. They found her dead body on the shore in Africa 2 weeks later. Every single person in that situation is guilty of her murder.
Yep.
Because they did nothing.
That. Every one of those guys should have been held to account.
Yep. Absolutely. So that's what we do. We protect, we defend. And if you see somebody that needs a meal, or just a smile, or even just a time where you can go sit with them, or just be a friend. It's a huge deal when people put their lives off to the side and put other people first, and take that time to be a friend, a neighbor, to be Christ to them. We are the body of Christ. That means that we're here to do good works, and plus more. I mean, of course, there's more to it than that, but it's all good. Well, thanks, Bill. This was awesome. Great time. It's always great. So Liberty Essentials is on every Wednesday, 9:00 in the morning on Brandenburg News Network. And I am broadcasting right now also to the U.S. Taxpayers Party YouTube channel. So we'll see how long that lasts before YouTube decides to put us in the naughty corner here. But that we'll be doing more of that and putting it out there to find. So you can go to ustpm.org and sign up to join us. And we would very much love to meet you and appreciate anyone that wants to stand with us to right this nation and to learn the proper process, the lawful process, not the grab your torches and pitchforks nonsense. No, that's not what we're doing here. We're learning actual statesmanship and ways that we already have the power to take back this nation and restore it to what the founding fathers had intended.
That's right.
Any last words, Bill?
We got to get back to what we used to do, Americans. Each one of us is responsible for everything we just talked about here. Every one of us is responsible for what is going on. The government is just a miniature reflection of who the people are at large. And if we want that to change, we must first change it in our local communities. So get involved. If you don't know how, talk to somebody who does. You can get a hold of Donna here. You can get a hold of me. You can get a hold of both of us on the website, along with many others that are trying to make a difference here. So get involved one way or another. You have to do something.
There you go. If you want to stay on, I know your time sometimes is limited, but I'm going to bring Karen on. If you want to stay on for the discussion, you're welcome to. And let's see if we can unmute Karen. Hey, Karen, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm enjoying this conversation.
So these two people, I'm going to tell you, if they ran for anything, I would vote for them because I know their integrity. They will do the right thing under any circumstances. And I do believe that. I know them well enough to be able to make that statement.
Well, I think both of you kind of struck on something about character. It takes people of a strong constitution to protect the Constitution. And I don't know if I've ever heard it said that way, but Donna stumbled on the word Constitution, and then she had to clarify what she meant by it. And I was like, no, that's actually a good happy accident there. Yeah, because it is. Yeah, and as Bill mentioned, a failure to speak against corruption and crime disgraces the sacrifices that our founders have made and the many who are still making sacrifices on behalf of our nation. And it's not so much about nationality as it is about humanity as well. The idea that 3%, and I've heard this number before, 3% took on the largest military force in the world. And come on, we still have the courage to do that. We are Americans, and we have been raised to be patriotic. The next generation, maybe not so much, but we have. When I hear the national anthem, and I hear that last line about, does this flag still wave over the land of the free and the brave? That always gives me goosebumps, because I'm like, yeah, it does. But we got to start acting like it, because we haven't been showing it for a while.
Yeah.
Or it's been shown in little pockets.
Yeah, the media wants everybody to believe that a few thousand politicians are controlling 330 million people here in America. I mean, we outnumber them, guys. Yeah. They have no business to do what they're doing unless we're allowing it to be done.
And they've disarmed themselves in D.C. We're not disarmed. At least not here in Michigan.
The irony.
All right, Donna and Karen, I better bow out and get to work here. I still have a job to do during the day, so.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks for being on today. Really appreciate your time and your wisdom and all the things you've learned over the years. You know, everybody has so much to share, and I'm really excited about that video that we showed this morning. I hope everybody. I'm going to bring that up again. Hang on a minute.
That's worth playing every day.
I think so. I was thinking that the little, when I played it, I'm like, we might just have to play this every day and say, right. This is you. So if you feel bad about yourself, everybody, guess what? This is you. This is how you started. The moment of conception.
That is amazing.
It is totally amazing. It's just, you know, crazily, wonderfully, we are wonderfully made. And there's no accidents. No one is an accident out there. It's a beautiful thing.
That's right.
I think I froze up a little bit for a moment, momentarily.
Yeah, should I
Yeah, your video
screenshot that?
did.
What's that? My
Oh.
video did. That's okay. So we'll keep going. Here's Donna talking. So what else do you, so anytime we do anything they don't want us to put out there, video will freeze up. It's crazy. So watch me say the CH word. That usually knocks us right off the broadcast. So all right.
All right,
Have a great
ladies.
day, Bill. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we look forward to talking to you again.
Thank
Awesome.
you. Good show.
Next Wednesday, same time, same bat channel.
That's right. If you want the results you used to get, you have to be willing to do the things you used to do.
Awesome. Have a great day, Bill.
Take care.
Bye. Okay, and now the phone rings. Hang on a minute. It looks like somebody I might recognize. Hang on, Karen. Hello, this is Donna. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll get it. Thanks. Bye. Oh, interesting. So I how do I say this? I buy groceries for several houses. Nobody probably knows that I do that. However, they were alerting me to a pickup that we have to somebody needs to go pick up for a different house.
I did a screenshot of your face. We can make a meme of it later if you want.
Yeah, let's see if I can stop the camera and see what happens there. That's a better picture of me other than going, duh. I look like looking like President Trump when he talks. He gets that lower lip going.
Yeah.
I do too.
Sometimes I take screenshots of Donna when she makes faces on her videos, and then I send them to her later. Or I make a meme.
Yeah, you're a great meme maker too. I think they're hilarious. Some of the ones where you and I look like, Wayne and Garth from Wayne's World are absolutely funny. I don't always publish all of them because I'm not sure that everybody has the same, warped sense of humor that you and I have. Oh, we're still frozen. All right, let's see if we're going to freeze, unfreeze, freeze, unfreeze. So let me see if I can remove myself and re-add myself. Hang on a minute. Maybe that'll do it.
Boy, you're fast at that.
Hey, I'm quick at stuff like this. Let's see. Camera's still knocked out. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
All right. So let's see. Oh, nope. Okay. Well, keep messing with me, guys. I'm still going to come back. I'm like I'm going to keep coming back. I'm like that thing that will never die.
Like a birthday candle that keeps lighting again.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's great. I'm a relighting candle. That's what it is. So, or a player on a video game.
You mentioned Saturday Night Live. Is funny because there was a moment there in watching the video where I remembered a skit on SNL they used to do with making copies.
Oh yeah, that's hilarious. That was Dana Carvey, wasn't it?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I'm watching this and I was thinking, here's the egg, and I was thinking in my head like a little voice, here come the sperm. Do, 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 do. Oh, an egg. And he swims up to the egg and they making copies. and then just then it's like black with a flash of light, just like it was sitting on a copy machine.
Yeah.
And it's not a precise copy. It's never going to be that. You don't get to make an exact copy of two different people. You make a new man or woman out of it. I almost said person. I'm trying to avoid using that word. But isn't that interesting how God works? And there's that flash of light. Wow, spectacular.
Yeah, it really is. It's just totally amazing, and I think that there's so much more here that we have become. How do I say it? unaware of, callous to, indoctrinated out of the real beliefs. Because underneath it all, if you've got Satanists running the world, they are going to, the war is on God. It's who's going to get the power here is what they think, which is absolutely absurd. How can a created being such as a fallen angel have the stupidity and audacity to think that they're going to best God Almighty that created them? That shows true insanity and stupidity, in my opinion. And just the craziness of it. And then you look at the craziness in our society and the way people behave. They can't even have a decent conversation because they want to be so right. Because, when somebody tries to be that right over an issue, all I say is, thanks for broadcasting to the world your insecurities, because you really don't believe what you're saying. If you believe what you're saying, you wouldn't have to fight so hard to prove your point. You wouldn't be in hysterics over it. It's nuts.
My favorite mentors are ones that admit when they discover something new and find that they are wrong. I had one that was, she was one that I really trusted in my field because of her years of experience. And I went to visit her once. She lived in Maryland. She's gone now, unfortunately. But when she was there and I visited her, and I'm there to learn. I took a class from her. And I was surprised when she said that she had learned something from me. And she meant it not even as a compliment in the moment. She was just being objective and just saying, hey, I never knew that. And I'm like, oh, you learned something from me? You learned something from me. And I also heard her at one point, she made a whole methodology, wrote a book, and using a particular tool that she later decided was probably not the best way to go. And I don't know that she regretted what she had done. She was experimenting and trying something new and teaching about how it was working for her. But in the long run, she returned to her roots and said, the roots are better. And that's really cool for me to see that a mentor who is very wise and earned that would also take a step back and say, I could have done things better. Mm-hmm. If I meet someone that doesn't do that ever and argues heartily for a point that many others disagree with, and they don't listen, if you don't listen to the opposing side, I don't respect that. You have to at least be open to hearing why your argument might be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There's a movie called World War Z with Brad Pitt. And in that movie, he hears about how this group of people, I think it was like 10, and then they had an 11th. So they had an odd man out. And the 11th was instructed to take on the opposite opinion of what was believed to be true at the time. Mm-hmm. And the 11th man turned out to be right. But they were chosen to heartily go for an opposite opinion, just in case the rest were wrong. And I'm typically doing that naturally. Since my youth, I was always trying to critically think and challenge authorities. I learned that in 2nd grade when my teacher was wrong, and she praised me when I told her so.
Oh, I thought you and I were just problem children here, Karen, that we asked all the questions that nobody wanted us. We're like, oh, there goes Donna and Karen again. Will someone shut them up? We're going to have to answer a question. We just want you to sit there and shut up and drink the Kool-Aid. That's what they want.
Yeah. I get called out for quote unquote overthinking. The other day, my husband sent me a meme that said, have you ever thought about how you could be wrong about overthinking? Something like that. I think about that all the time.
Oh, that's funny. So I'm going to share a channel here that you and I both like. And let me throw this out here because this
I know where you're going.
This is is a great channel. Okay. This is a great channel. So as we shake ourselves loose from big pharma and some of the other brainwashing, this is on Telegram, Nature's Apothecary. And these lovely individuals,
I don't know that channel.
I'm obsessed with this channel. Okay. This is a great channel. It's like they post books and all kinds of cool things on how to shed off the money-based healthcare. I'm not even, alleged healthcare system. Okay. Alleged. I'm going to leave it alleged at this point in time and go back to the start.
Out this morning.
I haven't seen this one, so I have no idea what he's going to talk about.
My personal debit card at the gas station, and it wouldn't go through. It kept saying declined. And I'm like, what the hell? So I ended up using one of my credit cards. And then when I get out to my vehicle, I check my bank account. Like, what the hell's going on? I know I got plenty of money. So I pull open my Chase app, and my account is tremendously negative. I mean, very, very large number negative. And my first thought is like, oh crap, this has got to be identity fraud. Someone's gotten a hold of my stuff. There's just no way. But with the amount of money that I'm negative, there's no way that Chase would have let this naturally go this far. But I went to call Chase anyways to figure out what was going on and try to get it fixed. Chase makes me aware that there's a levy on my bank account. And I'm like, a levy? For what? I have one pending civil case open, and it ain't for this much money. And there has been nothing that grants them access to get payment, which means they couldn't get a levy, which would mean the gears are turning. And I'm like, okay, who got a levy on me without even a court date? Because you got to have some kind of court paperwork to get a levy. So Chase gives me the number to this United Collection Agency. The United Collection Agency informs me that the state of Indiana, the Tax Revenue Service of Indiana, has put this levy on my bank account. And I'm like, what? For what? So I call them. They just informed me that the federal government went back to my 2020 taxes, redid my taxes without my notice, without me even being aware. They made changes to my taxes and did not offer me or my accountant a copy of these rendered tax returns. And now I owe the federal government and allegedly owe the federal government and the state of Indiana an ungodly amount of money. The federal government went in, redid my taxes for absolutely no reason. This is what the Department of Revenue in Indiana told me.
Isn't that special? Gonna go to Dana.
Now you're Dana Carvey again.
It's special. Yeah.
Isn't that special?
Yeah. So yeah.
And so what's he gonna do? They're gonna think he's not gonna fight this. He doesn't have any money to go to court to fight this.
So there it is, the Nature's Apothecary. It's amazing. I love it.
This is for anybody living near a
wildfire
right now.
There's really
Wild
great
animals will be coming to your town because their home is burning and they're just trying to survive. That means bears, coyotes, moose, elk, deer, sheep, and etc. Fill up some big buckets of water and keep your pets inside.
That is a very compassionate way to do it. We've got there's a pending case in this area of for animal abuse, and it's going through a sheriff's department in one of our near counties. And I was asked if I would take a couple of 3-year-old Tennessee Walkers who are abused and help rehabilitate them. So we're waiting to hear the vet checks on that and to get those horses out of extreme animal abuse. I have a video and of a horse that one of my friends took in not too long ago, and pictures that show how bad this horse, the last one that she took in, horrible shape, and how this horse turns out with good care. It's amazing. So we need to remember to really, take care of those animals and such. You and I are both farmers, we're both in the farming communities, and we love animals, birds, we love all of them, and go to huge lengths. If people saw what my horses, the care my horses get. The veterinarian, our veterinarian is probably the best vet we could ever hope for. And he said too, he's like, man, if I could reincarnate, he said, I died, I'd want to come back as a Brandenburg horse. So there you go. Cooking with scraps. Wildlife is feeling the heat too. So I've got a little bit. I've actually got 2 or 3 different places I check Telegram on, and this is not one that I check often. So I'm significantly behind on this channel, but I'll go back and I'll look at things. So regrow your veggies from roots and cuttings and scraps. There's a book. And if you go to the channel, they'll have a PDF quite often published there for base knowledge. And but I think this is something worth knowing. I mean, it's called produce because it produces. If you know how to take what you have, you can produce more for your family and your friends. We don't have to be afraid of this nation falling, which it's going to. Just look at you got to be stupid to not look at the financial shape this nation is in, as well as the shape of our government, to know that it's going to crash. There's no two ways about it. I was told that by a reliable source who works in the banking industry that when it does crash, it's going to make 1929 look like child's play. So we need to, if you don't have the resources, you better get the knowledge in your head and know how to make something from nothing, which I actually like doing. I look forward to this. So here's some aromatic and medicinal plants of drylands and deserts. That is interesting. That looks like a Hoya vine type bloom that they've got on there, but hard to tell. It's a desert plant. Encyclopedia of Country Living. You should see my book stash that I have, because I love all that. I foraged for food for quite a while, and I do a lot with vitamins, herbs, and grasses, anything you can find out there. Do you know that dandelion, every part of the dandelion is a cancer fighter?
And you could harvest them, but I've always had, since my youth, I've always had an interest in animals. And you've been rescuing horses. I used to work in wildlife rehab, so I understand the type of effort that goes into that kind of thing. But I was never interested in plants. As a biology student, and a minor along with my major, I needed to take a botany 500 class. And that to me was like torture. And it was really funny because in the first class, the instructor's asking some really basic questions. And I'm the one in the class that was completely useless. He called on me on this really basic question. And I was like, I don't know. And they're all looking at me like, why don't you know?
Because you didn't care.
I did not care. But by the end of the class, I cared. I had an A- in that class because I worked my butt off for it. And he was surprised. He was shocked, actually.
School classes, though, are boring. I remember blowing through history. And I can't tell you from the class one thing that I learned, except for the instructor was the most boring person I could. And it was just dates. You ever see that one, the one teacher on Ferris Bueller's Day Off? And he stands in front of the class and he talks like this. And it's like we go from one date to the next. And there's no relevance to it whatsoever. That's what my history class in high school was. So pretty much, I learned a lot just by working, because I started filling trucks by the time I was 7. I worked in restaurants by the time I was 14. I was working in a restaurant, and I always worked at least 2 jobs, usually 3, when I was younger. And you just learn that way, and you learn about other businesses and such. Let's see what they say on pharma here. That's where you really learn. And if you want to learn history, you know what? The teacher's way of teaching classically is by just reading. Well, that's great, except it's too controlled. Even if the schools were not teaching the way they are, which is completely stupidly. You've got 3 different types of learning modalities. You know, you've got the visual learner, the auditory learner, and the kinesthetic learner. Most teachers are visual learners, so they read to get their information. Most of the population, however, is either auditory or they're kinesthetic learners. You got to get their hands on things, and so that they can relate to it. So I started my kids when I homeschooled my kids. My kids were doing algebra in 1st grade, and once you teach them in a tangible way how to find a value, they'll remember it the rest of their lives, and math becomes very, very easy at that point in time. But you really have to have physical things in play, and you can do it with videos, but you can also do it with physical objects, and that's really the better way to do it. So there's a thing you can look it up called hands-on equations, and it comes with a paper scale, pawns, and dice. And you learn the legal moves for balancing out an equation to find a value. Simple. It's so simple. It's stupidly simple, but it's geniusly simple, right? But my kids knew algebra by the time they were 1st grade. So how old is that? Like 6, 7 years old? They could do algebra, and fairly well, which is one of my kids. He when he was 14 years old, he was already in college. He started college at 12, honestly. And granted, we've got good genes on my dad's side of the family. There's really good genes for having like photographic memories and that sort of thing. It's helpful. But when he was 14, I finally said, why don't we put you in the ACT test to really see where you are? He almost had a perfect score, and he had a perfect score in trig and science and math and such. And so I knew I was on the right track. But anyhow, if you want to homeschool, telling you what, you don't have to try too hard to be better than the government indoctrination camps. So give it a whirl. And the Constitution Party, there's actually a couple of regions in the state who are working actively on providing homeschool sources. And we may tackle that for Michigan, because the 3 people sitting at the top, 4 people that are sitting at the top of the U.S. Taxpayers Party, we all homeschool or were homeschooled. So, and I'm the oldest one in the group. So anyhow, Grandma Donna here. Okay, so let's listen to what this is saying.
Food. Not eating what they're selling you. Not buying what they're selling you. I'm telling you, not eating what they're selling you. And if somebody's selling you food on a commercial, that's a food you probably don't want to eat. There's a little jingle they're singing, that's a food you probably don't want to eat. Because food value is inversely proportional to the amount of marketing that's spent on that food. Because food value is inversely proportional to the amount of marketing that's spent on that food. They don't market broccoli, don't market Brussels sprouts, they don't market food that's good for you, they market food that is highly processed. The profit margins on cereals, crackers, on breads is unconscionable. Because when you buy a box of cereal, for example, what you're basically buying is a box of air. Profit margin on that stuff is repulsive. Why do you think the biggest companies in the world, like Philip Morris and the cigarette companies, you know what else they own? Potato chip companies. And they own the snack food companies.
I think that's kind of interesting. And I'll give everybody a gimme. I made applesauce yesterday, and I'm going to do some jams and jellies and some other things. I know how to can and preserve food. I think you do too, don't you, Karen?
No, I don't actually.
Oh, so
I've never canned, and my husband doesn't want to because he said it's too much work.
Actually, it's not. So you clearly need to have a mentor to help you survive.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I've canned everything. I've canned meat, I've canned soup, I've canned spaghetti sauce, homemade spaghetti sauce, marinara sauce, salsa, jams, jellies, fruits, vegetables, pretty much everything I've canned at some point in time in my life. And so all of these things are so easy to do. And I just bought a freeze dryer machine. So I'm going to start freeze drying eggs and using my freeze dryer to put them in mason jars and turn the vacuum pump on and can things that way, because that's all you really need to do. Is the heat process is forcing the air out of the bottles, unless you've got if you've got a high acid food like tomatoes or fruits, and which is also high sugar, you don't need to have the pressure canning method on most of that. But if you have anything that has to have the enzymes killed in order to preserve it, then you have to use pressure canning to pressure that. But the base process with canning is to force the air out in order to suck the seal down onto the jars to have a good seal. So when you freeze dry, you don't really need to do it. If you do it in Mylar bags, you're subject to the plasticizers in the packaging. And so I'm going to do it all with mason jars, turn the vacuum on, and suck the seals tight on them. So I think that's interesting, besides using it for the freeze dryer. So I should do a class on this. I could do a class on this and show people the process of making jams and jellies. And you know what? If the economy falls apart, think about this. So everybody go out and buy a couple of jars of jams or jellies in the store, because if the economy falls apart, one of the first things to go is tasty food, and people get really dissatisfied quickly if they don't have something that tastes good. Like somebody like me, I could pick something off the ground and eat it, and I'd be okay with it. I'm not a fan of eating, really. I don't have to eat. I eat to live, I don't live to eat, right? But most people aren't like that. And so the first thing that people get really depressed and they lose their mental stability in situations of crisis if some of their base needs aren't met. And one of that is sweetened, good tasting food. So with a lens of that things are going to melt down, go out and buy a few jars of jams or jellies today and be prepared in the event of something happening. Because you can use jams or jellies. Let's just say you want to make a cake. Throw the jams in as your sweetener and cut your liquid part of the cake down. And that's making it from scratch if you've got a little flour, sugar in the house. Flour, sugar, a little bit of baking soda, baking powder, or just baking soda and a little bit of vinegar will create an leavening agent. So you're not making like a pig iron brick kind of a cake. And you make your cake fluffy even with those two ingredients. You can do it. But there's other alternative ways of doing all of this stuff. I'm not going to answer that. People just need to realize that there's other options to hit the goal here.
If you've heard about restaurants selling lab-grown meat, then you need to see what they're doing in Canada. The biotech company Future Fields breeds genetically modified flies to produce lab-grown meat. You've probably never heard of Future Fields, but they already supply over 60 companies in 20 countries with this recombinant animal protein. The companies need the flies for their signaling molecules that are used to develop and grow cells for the lab-grown meat. The company claims that this is more sustainable and cost-effective than eating real meat.
Lies.
Future Fields has patented the fly technology under the name Ento Engine. This is an alternative to fetal bovine serum, which other lab-grown meat companies get by slaughtering a pregnant cow. Earlier this year, Future Fields raised an additional $11.2 million to further grow and scale. I'm strongly opposed to lab-grown meat, but let me know what you think in the comments below.
See why I love this channel?
Mm-hmm.
It's great. So here's something. I'm looking at starting a new company with a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, one of my Anon buddies, and to look at chicken food supplement additive based on insects. Now I want to have everybody know that there is a natural order to things. Insects carry parasites. Y'all should not be eating insects, okay? I don't care how they're grown. It is not the way, it is not a smart way to approach things. However, when chickens, birds, all your poultry, their natural diet is to eat insects. Okay, that's what they do. They eat grass, they'll eat food clippings, scraps and all that kind of stuff. But part of the diet to get the protein up is to eat insects. And there's also enzymes that they can't synthesize, which come from insects naturally. And so this is something that I am not just strongly considering, but actively working on moving forward with this. And I'm kind of excited about the process, honestly. And so just so you know, I'll let you guys know how this goes. I've got a couple of new companies that actually I'm working on 3 of them right now because I like to build. I hate money. I like to build. Money just makes people stupid. So here you go. Let's see what we have here. If you think the industry that makes its money off of sick people is going to give you a free shot, that's going to make you super healthy. Yeah, right. The Scything Handbook, how to cut grass, mow meadows, and harvest grain with a scythe. When I was a kid, we were super poor. And actually, when I was a kid, I used, we were subject at a very, very young age to things that I would never let my children do. Not in a million. I have to come to the conclusion that my mom and dad hated me, at this point in time, or I was, but actually, I remember using I can't remember the exact name of the tool, but to do that in our lawn. And so it was all hand done. Used a little shears, a hand scissors, which killed my hands in order to trim with. And they were spring loaded and they were dull. And it was a really horrible experience, actually. But if you are an adult and you have the strength to do that, not like a 4 or 5-year-old, probably would be a very positive experience to cut grass, mow lawns, harvest grain. So if things melt down, guess what, guys? We do have options.
I think this is how you were hardened in your youth.
Yeah, if people want to know why
you're wanting to trim the lawn.
Yeah, I'm not kidding you. I am serious. I am dead serious. If I could find that pair of it was one piece that didn't have a hinge. It was built. It was like a piece of metal that got turned upon itself. So the spring was in the back end of the handle, and you had to just squeeze the spring together to bring the blades together. That's how we trimmed the lawn. And man, you'd be out there for hours doing that. I mean, if you wanted to eat, you got to it, right? So so people want to know why I'm a little bit of a tough individual. Oh, I could tell you stories besides, and it's like, shove your white privilege right up your right. And so, digging in a manure pile to get worms when I was a teenager. I mean, there was, I'm not sure what.
Not to eat them. You have to clarify. I know what you mean because you've talked about it before. She's selling the worms.
Yeah, you feed worms and insects to fish and chickens, and the process purifies it. They need it. They have the process to purify the things out. Their bodies purify those things, and it's what they need to live. We're not built to eat the same thing that chickens eat. We don't have a gizzard. They eat, for gosh sakes, they eat stones and rocks. That's how they digest the grain and such.
Everybody should have to cut open a gizzard and see what it looks like inside.
Yeah, I've dressed out chickens. Have you?
Oh yeah, we do our own.
Yeah, I know.
I did like I don't know. Let's see, about 50 probably this year. 2 batches. We do about 2 dozen each.
Well, I'm a vegetarian, so.
And I helped a friend too.
Yeah, actually, I'm a vegetarian, so I just because of health reasons. It's like I can't process the different meats because it's too close. The animal proteins, and this is actually true for most people, animal proteins are too close to our own proteins. Some people can overcome it, but there are some of us who can't. And so I eat fish, and I'm not against eating meat. I just don't eat it. I cook it for other people, but I just don't eat it. So the Herbal Apothecary 100 herbal medicines and how to use them, from some making teas, tinctures, salves, and syrups. Holistic medicine. See, look at this is why we're obsessed with this channel, guys. This is interesting. Your yard is a universe. Yes, it is. No toxins unless you're dumb enough to put them down, like Roundup. Plant natives, leaves. Did you know that our insect population, I heard this lately, is down 30% to 30% of what it was in the 70s? And do you know why most of that is?
Roundup.
Nope, it's actually because of the nicotinoids that are put down as broad spectrum pest control and such. So nicotine, it's called the nicotinoids, I think it's called, how you pronounce it. And it's because the prevalence of nicotine used in insect control. It looks natural, but there's too much of it, and it's too much of a broad spectrum. There's other ways to deal with this, people.
Speaking
like
of
chickens
tools, we don't have goats anymore, so we don't need the goat fence in the back. So I decided I would like to be able to cross over from that portion of the yard to the other portion of the yard without having to go around the long way because of the fence. But there's some aspects to that fence that make it difficult without the right tool. And I still haven't figured it out. I got to get my husband, who has the tools, to figure out which tool to use to finish the job. But I got most of it done all by myself. I did find a mix of tools and had to learn myself how to unwire this fence. And he's the fence guy. So I did end up with some sore hands for a couple of days.
Hub is the fence guy.
I did a little hard work outside.
Oh no. Bill Gates pushes plan to chop down 70 million acres of trees to fight global warming. That nut job needs to be removed from society. And at all of the acres that he's bought under, the guise of doing anything right is an attack against this nation, an economic attack. Companies, especially foreign entities, which all of these corporations at this point in time are.
Flu and COVID, it's there.
So all of these corporations are foreign owned. They pass them around. So they should not be allowed to own American land, period. End of story. Decentralize the food chain. Everybody grow your own food and become less dependent upon the system. Well, this is fun today talking with you. I miss it when you're not on every week. Sometimes I get so many people that have new news in different directions, that sometimes they don't, but I love having you on. I mean, it's fun talking to somebody who really well and is a friend and dig down through information that is just interesting.
I miss it when I'm not on here. Occasionally your schedule will change, and I noticed that you were going to be gone this Thursday, and I was like, no.
So you want me to tell you where I'm going?
No. I know that you have other more important things to do than to talk to me for an hour or two on Thursday mornings. But still, I really miss it. It throws me all off.
Not really more important, but I got to catch a plane. And so that's the point there, is that I'm going to Washington, D.C. this week on Thursday through Saturday. And so should be very interesting. I will be taking lots and lots of pictures. Do you know why I take selfies? Some people go, it's really narcissistic. No, you know why? Because nobody believes I'm actually there unless I get myself in the picture, because they're like, oh yeah, sure you're there. They put you in the same category as Phil Godlowski. I'm going to put it out there, who scammed one of my videos, and it said he was there, and that General Flynn, whom he owes an apology to, was calling him out. No, he wasn't. And anybody that listens to this guy should know and actually vet and look into the information to see if what he's talking about. I can tell you from personal experience, he scammed one of my videos and I lost complete respect for this man. And so there you go. But yes, that's why I actually do it. I take selfies because nobody believes that I am actually meeting these people. And it's true. This is going to be a really interesting trip. I'll let everybody know how it's going along the way. And just so everybody knows, I'm moving forward with all kinds of legal action. You won't hear about it on the news. And I'm going to tell you, this is why I keep saying, anybody that knows what's going on, they're not talking. I'm going to tell you that right now. and anything that's happening that actually is doing something to move the bar, you're not going to hear about this on mainstream media, fake stream media. They're complicit. You're going to have to find some obscure little podcaster or broadcaster like Brandenburg News Network, and people who aren't afraid to say the truth and throw it out there and say, you're going to come and arrest me. That's fine, but I'm not going to stop talking about these uncomfortable subjects, because we're going to throw the truth out there, whether they like it or not. And I'm not asking permission. And so, that's the way that the truth spreads. And I would like to ask everyone out there to please pass on this information, like the Liberty Essentials that Bill and I are doing on Wednesday morning at 9, or what Karen and I dig up, or anybody that's on this channel. If they're brave enough to come on here, they're either going to tell the truth or they're going to be called out for it. And that's it's just the way it is, and I'm not going to apologize for it. So, and this, and let me pull this up a minute. I'm going to try to pull up, since my camera stopped working. Thank you very little for whoever was behind that. Let me go ahead, and I'm going to move to the, I love that channel, The Nature Apothecary. The Nature Apothecary. Remember that name. That's a great name. Let me pull up the,
Yeah, I've never seen that channel, but I thought you were going to go somewhere else when you said you were sharing something because of what we talked about before the show. Oh,
let's see if I can pull up the, oh my goodness, I've got a lot of tabs open. Donna, you're insane. This is where tech looks at me and says, please take the computer away from her, because she's everything. She's going to open up all the tabs and get it all working. And oh my gosh, she needs another computer because she's maxed out the ones that she has every single time. You should see all the tabs I have. It's crazy. So you can probably see it if you look at the top of the browser here. Check this out. I don't even have them all up there. Check this out. I'll just show you all the tabs I've got. This is on one browser, and I've got 3 browsers or 4 browsers running. So this is for quick reference. So here you go. Here is Get in the Fight, Michigan Summit and Training, Help End Child Exploitation and Trafficking. If you don't have a purpose, guess what? I'm handing you one right here. December 8th and 9th. My buddy, General Michael Flynn, and Laura Logan, and all these people. Jason Jones, I love this guy. He gave one of the finest presentations on human trafficking I've ever seen in my life, and that was the one that Phil Godlowski scammed the Flynn video off of, was at that meeting, which I was at, and he was not. And then here's the training program schedule. You have to sign up for each of these independently, but you can go here and see the concurrent programs going on. And honestly, just go ahead and sign up for this. They're going to show the Into the Light movie and have a discussion on artificial intelligence. Boone Cutler wrote a book with General Flynn, 2 books, 2 or 3 of them. And Mike Smith is the director. So just go ahead and sign up. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 concurrent programs going on at the same time. And I'm signing up for, I'm going to sign up for all of them, just because I'm there to support the effort to deep six this human trafficking crap that's going on in this state. So I'm going to encourage everybody to go there. You can go there. There you go. It's americasfuture.net. Get in the fight, Michigan. Let's turn this state into a boxing glove and get everybody. You know what? I think that what I would love to see is, I'd like to see 10 people today in the state of Michigan. I'm not asking much. Sign up for this thing and say, you know what? I'm going to get in the fight here. Or if you don't sign up, I'd like to see 20 people pass this information on to your networks and groups, because I know you're all in them. You know, It's like we're all in networks and groups. You could go post it. If you go to my, hang on, I'll even make it easy for you here. Watch this. I'm going to make this so easy, it's going to be frightening. Here you go to Donna's Telegram channel. Oh my gosh. I can't put the latest ones I put up because they've got now the patheticness going out there. I'll spare you all of this patheticness. But on my channel, which is Brandenburg 4MI on Telegram, Here we go. We're going to make it real easy for you. Just go here. You can even do the little scan for the little scan to sign up. You've got a flyer. You can forward on my post to this. I'm going to do another one today to make it real super easy. And here you go. There's the flyer. Pass the flyer on. Pass my posts on. You can pass the website on at americasfuture.net and help us. If you're not going to go, please just at least help get the word out there so that we can get more people involved on a local level to fight this human trafficking through this state, which is a sieve for kids. The state's a sieve for children. And I'm not talking 16-year-olds. I'm talking infants. These people are raping infants. And then they cut them up and chop them up as a chop shop to sell their organs.
People are sick.
Not all people, not the people that are like normal people like us.
I said, these people are
Those
sick.
people who hurt children are monsters. Monsters are like, remember the Grimm's fairy tales and such from the Black Forest, of which the Rothschilds had a 14,000 acre estate, which they were forced to sell. Thank you to President Trump, the rightful president of the United States, executive order on human trafficking as crimes against humanity. He forced that one.
He did more for human trafficking against human trafficking, to clarify, than any other president
Ever in the history of the nation. Yeah, so.
And I don't hear Whitmer talking about human trafficking. I'm just saying. No. You don't hear Benson talking about it. You don't hear Nessel talking about it. You don't hear Congress talking about it. I don't hear the local GOP talking about it. They're not doing anything. I don't see any resolutions. Maybe they had one and I never heard about it because it didn't get publicized well enough. I haven't heard our sheriff talking about it. It's not brought up at county meetings that I know of.
No. You don't hear anybody talking about it, but the U.S. Taxpayers Party, the Constitution Party, talks about it. And, we're putting this out there too. And I'm going to tell you, we can all agree on this. We need to protect our children and other people's children and children that are in the system. We all can stand on protecting children. So there you go. So there's my thing. So any last words here, Karen? And we're going to say a prayer and move on to our day.
That goes back again to the idea of what can Americans do? If you claim to be a patriot, start acting like it. If you haven't yet, everyone has a role to play. If you're not sure what it is, look into that. If human trafficking is not your forte, it's not your lane, so to speak, then find one, get on it, and start acting on it. And I remember talking to a mother who was like, I wish I could do what you could do. And I said, look, you find your lane. My mom was recently telling me about how she felt badly that she couldn't participate in an activity that the church was doing because of her physical limitations. And then she went on to tell me about how she's crocheting because it helps her arthritis. And she's been doing this for years. That she would make scarves and give them away to a women's shelter locally. Well, she's moved. So she's trying to figure out how she could give these crochet items away. And I said, Mom, that is your service. Your role is just changing. That's okay. That's perfectly normal and okay. God will change your role from time to time. You have given a lifetime of service. You're just doing it in a different way now. And that's okay. Find your role to play and do it.
And don't be afraid to change.
And don't be afraid to change it when another opportunity comes along. If you have an opportunity to attend this conference and you're curious about it, then maybe this is something that you could jump on because you might find out it's perfect for you right now.
And maybe they just need some help, like stuffing envelopes. If you have an administrative gift, all of us have different gifts. Some people can talk. Some people are too shy to talk. That's okay. Doesn't matter. Everything in an organization or a group of people, or even just as an individual, remember that video with a spark at the moment of conception. Comes back to that. God created you exactly the way
Amen.
he wants you to be. There's never been anyone like you. There never will be. You're not a mistake. I don't care if your parents planned it. And I've always told people this, doesn't matter. Did your parents plan you or did God? Well, God plans both of them, but we want to hang it on our parents planned us. Well, who cares? I'd rather have God plan me and make that the focus, that he planned me with all of the things that I do right and wrong, my flaws, the things that are gifts and such. And each one of us can say the same thing. We all have flaws. We all have gifts. And have you ever heard of the story of the cracked pot?
I don't know.
Well, there was so this is like a parable type story. You know, a person had a pot and they dropped it. That's all they had was a clay pot. And they dropped it and the pot cracked and they were crying. You know, they were very sad and crying because they couldn't carry water the way that they thought they should be carrying water. And so they used their cracked pot and realized that through the cracks, they were watering plants. And so sometimes the designated, or what we think we're supposed to be here for, the real purpose is being that cracked pot. And the work that's done, not just because we're perfect, but because of our flaws. When I see someone who is very flawed, I'm not very often am I friends with somebody who has a perfect life. You know, nobody does, I'll give you that, but that pretends to have a perfect life. But those people that have had a lot of hardship in their lives, those are the people I want to be friends with, because they have typically a deeper character and a little less judgmental, a little more depth to them. And I think we can all look at that and say, embrace the cracks in your pot, because those are ones God planned. And we don't know how he's going to use that. He uses all things. All things work together for good to those who love the Lord and are called according to his purposes. If we think or we mourn, not having a perfect life. I remember a point in my life that I felt that way. I did not have an ideal upbringing in any way, shape, or form. And I don't talk about it much. But I really, for a while there, I really mourned that loss. And as I got older, I realized that God puts us in situations to toughen us up. He chastises those he loves, and he builds their character through good and bad situations. And I am not sorry for 1 minute of my life. I don't mourn it. I don't think about any losses. I'm thankful because they were gifts of God. They created things that I would never have learned had I had a perfect life. And I guess that's a great way to leave it, is that God knows what he's doing. That spark of life, when that sperm met that egg, was pure magic in every single one of our history. We have the same history. Every single one of us has that history. That spark of life was given by God Almighty. And it's something to be revered, protected, and realize how special each and every one of us are, and how God ordained our lives were. And it's a beautiful thing. I might just play that every single day, just to drive this point home, that if people feel despair, loneliness, depression, go back to that spark.
Yeah, this is the issue, or the attitude that the woman who questioned me was. And in a way, my mom too, with her, I wish she felt bad. She felt guilty. He said, you got to lay that behind you, because that is not true. That is not right. No, you are not less than because your talents or your skills are different than someone else's. Find what God gave you to do. You are not less than anybody else.
Right.
Because you are different. God made you different for a reason. I tend to wear my emotions on my sleeve. And I am also, because of my past history and training, I am not afraid to get in front of an audience and speak. And sometimes those two things run together, and it could be easily, I could be in the front of a room and crying, and it works because that's how God made me, and I'm not ashamed of it.
I've seen you do it. It's beautiful.
There was a time when I would be like, oh, I'm sorry. You know, like if I cry weird things sometimes. But I stopped apologizing for that. I would, apologize for the hesitation or that people can't hear me for a moment while I'm blubbering or whatever it is. But no, God made me that way for a reason. And I think it shows the sincerity that I have. It causes people to pay attention to what I'm saying and the heartfelt nature of it. And that's a blessing too. That's a talent in a way that God gave me. It surprises me. I don't always know when that's going to happen. It's not natural. I mean, it's not Karen imposed. I'll put it that way. It just happens. That's how God made me. I'm not less than because I'm an emotional woman. Well, nobody is less than because you feel a certain way.
You know what it does? It makes people face their own humanity, and they're just uncomfortable because they can't control it. That's what this is all about. It's control. It's like I get criticized because I'm non-emotional. But I'm going to tell you what, in a crisis, that's the kind of people you need in place, because they will put all their, it's not that they don't feel the emotions. And I had one of the guys that he actually texted me last night. I consider him a brother that worked for us for many years. And just a wonderful man, wonderful wife, wonderful family, right? And he told me stories about watching horrific accidents that he was he was on cruise and seeing some horrific, and I mean horrific accidents. And he went right into the crisis mode. You lay your emotions to the side so that you can deal with a crisis at hand. It's not that you don't feel them. You don't feel them at the moment. But you can't be effective if you're being driven by your emotions. You set them aside, and then you deal with them later when you can process them, when you're out of the danger zone. It's a great skill to have. I'm going to tell you what, but you don't gain that without going through crisis. You don't just automatically have that. That's an earned skill.
Yeah, you can get trained for it. And they always say, like, first responders or military, you can be trained for that moment, but you never know. I remember when I was going through first aid training, I went through first aid, CPR, AED, and pet first aid training. And then I went through the instructor training to be certified to teach those things. We were trained. We were told about the type of testing that could be done. And the instructor set up a scene, a fake scene, a couple of times. One was down the hallway or into another room. And she had a sheet representing water on the floor. This was a test to see if you noticed safety first. If there's water on the floor and someone is laying in it, you better look around to make sure you're not going to get electrocuted if you step in that room. That was the test. And I found myself in the middle of people and all of a sudden at the head of the group of people moving down the hallway because everybody else hesitated. They were, when put to the test, they were frightened and they didn't know what to do and they hesitated. And I've been in real life situations a number of times coming on car accidents where I was one who chose not to hesitate and examine the situation first, safety first, and then act. And I was in a scene once and a friend of mine who was a firefighter EMT showed up. And I could not get, it was a person who appeared to be drunk maybe, who had gotten in an accident. And I could not get them to say anything intelligible. And I'm trying to hold their head still. There's blood. It's a mess. And my friend comes along. She's trained and she's experienced. And she walks up and she says, "What's your date of birth?" And the guy starts rolling it out there. He's telling everything about himself that she needs to know. And I'm like, What?
can you do that? Yeah,
How can
right.
you do that?
That's
She knew
interesting.
what to do by experience, but she didn't hesitate either. That's that training that kicks. She wasn't in adrenaline state like I was.
Can you keep talking for just a minute? I'll be right back.
Sure.
I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay. So that in the state of adrenaline, some people freeze up, some people fly, some people determine to fight, and it can be really, really hard to use your common sense. I was hearing recently about some people that had gotten into a couple of different scenarios with two different people, and it might have been two different videos that I saw. But in both circumstances, they said, when you are in this state of panic and you think you're going to die, you don't think intelligently. Like trying to wash hands while there's a large wound. You're not thinking about stopping the bleeding. You're thinking about washing the blood off your hands. That doesn't make any common sense. Can you keep a cool head? If you train yourself, as Donna has talked about before on the show, about things like if there were to be an invader coming into your house, or if there were to be a fire starting in your house, do you have a plan of defense? Do you know which windows you can escape from and how? Which exits you can take? How? If it's in winter, do you have all of your exits cleared every time you shovel so that you could get out in an emergency? Are you trained if you have a handgun or a rifle that you can use in your home or elsewhere? Do you know how to use it? Do you know well how to use it? Because if you don't and you're in that scenario, you may panic and use it inappropriately. You could harm a loved one or miss when you need to not miss.
Okay, I'm back.
All of those things require training and at least clear thinking, and you have to practice to be able to get into those scenarios well. Not everybody can. That's okay. But you use your skills where God gives you, your talents where God gives you them, and prepare to protect your family, prepare to protect your community, your state, your country, prepare to protect the children that are being trafficked. Whatever your role to play is, we hope you find it, because your people need you and your God needs you to step up and do what you can to help his people.
We need you. We need each and every person to be their best self. And that looks different for everyone. So there you go. And God's in taking control of that. You know, the minute that people put themselves and insert themselves in other people's process, you know, it doesn't mean not to help, but thinking that they're gonna, you know, run this person around, it's a real problem. So with that said, how about we go to prayer and we go to our day? I love this. Okay. It's always great. It's always a great day when I talk to you. I always love our time together. I really do. It's so real. That's what I like about it. It's real. It's authentic. And I like talking to good people, and you're a good person. So,
thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very, very, very much for Bill and Karen and all the people that are willing to step forward to fight for this nation, to fight for your good purposes, and to put every minute of their day into keeping other people in mind. That's what it's kind of all about, is to be your body here on this earth and to do good works, to do your processes or to achieve your goals. It's not about us. Whatever it is today, we want to put our goals aside and teach us to think like you. Teach us to focus on what it is that you want us to do. Put things in front of us so that we learn to be less reliant on self and more reliant on you, your guidance, your direction, because you are good all the time. And we just want to be a blessing to you as you have so blessed us. You've been such a great friend to us. We ask that your favor would be upon all those who fight for this nation, that you would bless General Flynn, Mary Flynn, his sister, Admiral Rogers, President Trump, the real president, the rightful president of the United States, and all those who fight for law and order, who fight for the rights and of others, who fight for individual freedoms that you've given us, that you have given us as a nation and guaranteed by our Constitution. We are grateful for everything you do for us, for the provision of food, for the beautiful sun today, that we're having here in West Michigan, for everything, for our pets. We're so grateful. And we want to be a friend to you as you have been to us. You've created such a beautiful world for us, a wonderful place to be. I love the video of watching that moment that you literally put the spark of life into that sperm and that egg at the moment of conception. What a glorious, beautiful thing to celebrate. And we are celebrating this day, the life that you have poured out upon this earth. And we love you. We love everything you've created. And we're willing to follow you and do whatever it is that you ask us to do. And because it's all you anyway. It's just we love you. And thank you. Thank you for everything. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Awesome. So you ready to tear this day apart? Let's go tear into it.
Yeah, I need to get outside today. My husband's hunting, like a lot of people. I need to get outside, and I'm sure I can find some chores to do. I'm trying to get ready for winter. It's going to be cold next week, and it's time to do all those preparations and then hunker down for a while.
We still got to dig our potatoes up yet. So today I think what I'm going to do is this week getting ready to leave tomorrow, and the next week I'm going to come back, and when I get back, I think it's time to dig potatoes because we have a ton of them. And
making taters.
Yep. I think I'm going to try freeze drying them and see what I can do with that. I'm going to put that thing to work. And then, so next week is going to be canning and freeze drying and all kinds of things. So that's my plan. We'll see how well I can hold that one together. And, I didn't tell you this. I got my sewing machine out. I love to sew. And I learned to sew when I was a kid. I'm that person, that kinesthetic learner, that anything I can do with my hands is a good day. I don't care if it's wood carving. I don't care if it's framing in a wall. I don't care what it is. If I'm working with my hands, I'm happy. So I got my sewing machine out, and I helped do some alterations on my daughter's wedding dress. She got married,
Oh, that's cool.
And it was so cool. And I'm like, I love doing this. And so I've been looking at videos from cobblers and how to make hand make shoes. And I think I may just give this a shot. So we'll see, just to see if I can do it. Got to tackle something new every day, right?
Yeah, I was thinking, I don't have any cowboy boots. I haven't had cowboy type boots in a long, long time. Sometime I need to get some cowboy boots.
All right. So
and then I was like, I don't know anything about cowboy boots.
I know like as much as a person can know about cowboy boots. And I've got a beef with Ariat right now because I've always worn Ariat. Actually, this is one of the impetus of me looking at how to build a good pair of shoes is because Ariat, whom I've been on the phone with multiple times because they stopped building the Sheridan model boot, which is the best boot they've ever made. And it's the one I always wear, right? So everybody's going to think this is funny. This is so Donna to be this obsessed about a stupid pair of cowboy boots. But this is something that is near and dear to anyone who has horse's heart. So Ariat starts making these stupid boots, these tall boots with a zipper on the inside of the leg, which nobody who has horses would ever really want to wear. You will with like a dress boot or show boot, an English style boot. But you don't do that on a Western cowboy boot, for God's sakes, okay? So I called them and I'm like, all right, so I get it. You're cutting down the height of the boot to save yourselves money. And I'm like, but I like this boot because it's a little taller. It protects your legs better in the stirrup. And I'm not going to be wearing your stupid fashion boots that have the zipper on the inside of the boot. So the first guy I
That'd
was
be
on,
like the one that I would go for, just
Right,
because
and
I don't have the experience.
so I want to tell you this. So Ariat, the name Ariat comes from secretariat, ergo horse.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
We have totally walked away from the horse market. And everybody out there, please call them and tell them to make the Sheridan boot again so that they don't walk away from the market, which is the horse market that actually put them on the map. And so I sat there and I listened. The first guy that he's like, well, we still have it. It's just not in production right now. And I call back later. He's gone. They fired him or something. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So then I get on with a gal and she's like, hello, may I help you? And I knew I was dead in the water. Right?
Bueller.
Yeah, I was so dead in the water. And then the next guy I get on and I get on their chat and I start chatting with this guy. And I said, okay, this is what I need. I want a traditional Western heel and a narrow square toe or a snip toe. That's what I want. I don't want to wear a round toe. I don't want to wear a square toe. I want either a narrow or a snip toe because of the tool. If I have to get into a corner to, with my boot, I can use the corner as a, way to kick something out of a corner, right? There's lots of reasons why it's a working tool. It's a tool, right? So anyhow, the guy on the chat finally gave up because he kept throwing boots out there. I'm like, nope, this is not a good boot for women. You're making working boots for men, and you've totally abandoned women, the whole female market of horse owners. And yes, I am in fact a woman, and I've never been confused. So this is how this went with Ariat. So I'm like, fine, you're going to build crap boots now and abandon all of us who have been loyal customers for years and not give us the boot that we want to wear and cater to the fashion market and build a lousy version of what you used to build. I'm going to figure out how to build cowboy boots, and I'm going to build a cowboy boot. So that's Donna's thing. That was where this whole cobbler came forward. And I started by watching somebody, build a pair of shoes, which is kind of cool because it teaches you pattern making, which I've made my own patterns for sewing clothes when I was younger. So I'm like, cool, I'm just going to figure out how to make a really good pattern for a boot. And I hate to say it, screw them. I'll make my own boot.
You can try for me, but I got bunions, so that's tricky.
No, it's not. It actually isn't. It's so much easier. Once I learned the process to customize and make a mold for the foot, you can make a mold for the foot, and then it's easy to make the pattern after that. So rudimentary tools, you got this. And so I'm like, if I can't find a manufacturer that I can invest in to develop a line of boots that actually works, since Ariat's fallen completely off of the map, then, I'll figure out how to make it myself.
Do you need a leather guy?
No, I don't need a leather guy. I need somebody there's boot manufacturers all over China, but to find one in the United States, because they've destroyed our manufacturing, our textile industries, all of these industries have been destroyed in the United States. We need to bring them back home, right? If I could find a boot manufacturer in the United States that would manufacture a decent freaking cowboy boot that's going to hold up, which they don't anymore. You wear them for 2 months and they're going to fall apart because they're so lousy built from China. If I can find somebody in the United States that would manufacture them, I will not be on a mission to put all the boot manufacturers out of business that can't build a good boot. So that's the Donna rant for the day, which I'm sure everybody thinks is absolutely insane. But I actually have a sewing machine that can, in fact, sew through leather. So if I can't do it by hand, there's a
that was my question, because I'm picturing like boot leather, and that takes, you can't do that with an ordinary, like my Genome, which I don't use. It's been upstairs gathering some dust, I'm sure. It's been a while since I've used it. I do like to sew occasionally, but I have to be really invested in it to get it going.
Yeah, you can sew through, so I have the ability to, in fact, sew through leather. And if, and it's like when you look at how the shoe or boot leathers are made, a good sewing machine with the right needle can sew through that. So the coolest thing was to find out how to make a pattern out of an existing shoe or boot and actually be able to say, wow, that's kind of cool. I can take some leather here and form this, as well as forming a good sole. I mean, there's so many ways you can cast a foot and make a really good sole that's custom made to a foot just by, we've worked on casting and forming things with alternative products for quite a while, actually. So that wouldn't be too hard to do. But if you didn't do that, you could make it out of just plain leather and see if you can get an insert to, a pre-made insert that would fit your boot model or modify it. Just not that, you just got to be able to MacGyver crap in a pinch if you need to. And if you can't get something, figure out how to make it yourself. It's not that hard. People think there's all these big mysteries out there for making stuff. There really isn't. It might take you a little time, but what a cool thing to be able to, custom make your own shoes or boots, especially if you can't find a good one, which Ariat has failed me on. So there you go. Innovation comes from dissatisfaction or seeing a problem. So there you go. There you go. So I figured out I can make one to fit your bunion.
Okay. Yeah. And then you can figure out how to get me on one of your horses.
Pasafinos are the best horse to ride if you've got back problems because you don't post it. And I've got another friend who has terrible back problems, and she can ride a Pasafino. And when she got off the last time, she went home and she said, "I can't believe how good my back feels." And I'm like, yeah, it's a real gentle motion. It's not, it can be jarring, but I would never put somebody who's a beginner rider on a horse that's that high powered. So anyhow, there you go. Looking for success always, and just living a good, quiet life. And that's it. So anyhow, have a great day. I can't do heart hands because of course my camera stopped. Don't know why, but it did. So that's okay. So at any rate, I've got heart hands up. Visualize this, and God bless.
Sandwiches and heart hands.
Heart hands. So God bless you all. God bless you. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. God is with us. He's seeing us through this. It has a lot less to do with us than it does with God, and He's given us a little motivation to move into how He wants us to live, which is to have those rights, to have those choices, to exercise our wings and make good choices. You want a good day today? Make some good choices. Get mentally tough. Don't shy away from things that are difficult. If something's difficult, that's exactly where you should be, because that's where you're growing and getting stronger. You're learning things you can't learn in other ways. And you might have a lot of fun on the adventure, like making a boot or something like that. So anyhow, have a great day, and we'll see you. Maybe tomorrow I'll do some remote broadcasting. It may or may not be on BNN. We'll see if I can do that, but it certainly will be on my Telegram channel at Brandenburg 4MI. Still not conceding the governor's race, the 2022 governor's race. I will not concede to liars, cheats, and thieves. We're going to keep telling the truth here, and we'll be back full time next week. Brandenburg News Network, and we'll talk to you later.